they make a lot of money. And so, but he was bold enough to lay this tax on them for their profit, and that's what killed him. There was no way he was getting another term after that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
And then it was after that Oliver North was vital in helping to kill that rescue attempt with the helicopter. And
also the Contras versus the Sandinistas, the selling crack in Los Angeles in order to fund all that shit. All that stuff was going on at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe that.
Oh, it's fact.
Absolutely.
I had Freeway Ricky Ross, the guy who went to jail for it, on the podcast a few times.
Oh, was he the guy, the plane? He had the planes and he was flying?
No, that was Gary Webb. That was Gary Webb. The guy was flying into Mena, Arkansas.
Gary Webb, right.
Yeah.
It's a character.
Oh, no, Barry Seal. Gary Webb was the reporter who committed suicide. Didn't he shoot himself in the head twice? Yeah, that's right. Barry Seal. Thank you, Jamie.
The first one would have slowed down the second bullet a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, he was one of the main whistleblowers about that. Yeah, there's it's a sordid, horrible history. But Freeway Ricky Ross was, unbeknownst to him, was selling cocaine, funding this war. And he didn't even know what was going on until he went to jail. He couldn't read. Went to jail, became literate, and then became a lawyer in jail, and then figured out that they tried him on the 3 strikes rule incorrectly, got out of jail. And, now he runs weed dispensaries in California.
Really?
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Where does he live?
He lives in L.A., yeah.
Oh,
he's a great guy.
You got to connect me to him. I want to meet him.
You know Rick Ross, the rapper? He stole his name from Freeway Rick Ross.
Oh.
Rick Ross was a famous, street gangster. This famous street coke dealer who was making millions of dollars a week and couldn't read. He was a tennis player, a really good tennis player, who then used the discipline of being a tennis player to become a very disciplined drug dealer.
Ah.
Yeah.
Just like Pfizer, disciplined drug dealer.
Yeah, and now he's out. And he's a wonderful guy to talk to. Fun guy. Very happy, peaceful guy. And I mean, what a story. Learn how to read in jail and then realize
where castles stood tall, king of the found blueprints, ancient and grand. Techno knights were born, warriors of steel.
She's a public defender in Manhattan. She loves it.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And so she's helping a lot of people who are at a kind of a pivotal point in their lives.
Inventory's realm, where castles stood tall, king of the found blueprints, ancient and grand. Techno knights were born, warriors of steel. Hundreds of lovers, their power revealed.
Kid, I'm so proud of her.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful way to live your life.
No knights, guardians of the land. Courage and valor, they make their stand. In the battle for Eldoria, they fight against the darkness, they bring the light.
Lawyers are all evil. No, great lawyers. My good friend John Dubin, he used to work for the Innocent Project, and he worked with Ike Perlmutter. We had a bunch of podcasts where we highlighted
Lady Alara, shield the fortress of pride. So rats, these dark magic's might. Techno knights ready to ignite.
Great.
Techno knights, guardians of the land. With courage and valor, they make their stand. In the battle for Eldoria, they fight against the darkness, they bring the light.
Florida, fairly recently. Yeah, great. Love
Steel and sparks, battlefield roars. Techno knights, leaving marks, king of the Malacca's jewels. Final strike, darkness
corrupt
cool.
PAs, corrupt prosecutors, corrupt judges. It's like, it's all over the place. Like one of the guys that died in Park was one of the people that was involved in that Kids for Cash.
Cedric flies, strike from above, Alara shield, symbol of love, kingdom thrives. Techno knights, my face and darkness shining light.
There's a judge, was it Pennsylvania? Yeah, there's a judge in Pennsylvania that was making millions of dollars through putting kids in detention centers and ruining kids' lives, causing suicides, deaths, downward spiral of their life, like wrongfully detaining them and doing it for profit.
How is he getting a kickback?
He's getting kickbacks, from private prisons.
Oh, from private prisons.
Yeah, from private prisons, from prosecutors, from. I mean, I don't know exactly who was funding it, but he was convicted, and he's one of the guys Biden pardoned.
Really? It's sick.
Biden pardoned like 8,000 people.
Did he?
Yeah, he pardoned more people than anybody. Which generally I'm a fan of pardoning people. I think most people are incarcerated for far too long. I don't think it rehabilitates people. I think it probably makes them more hardened criminals. In most of the cases, there's a few cases where people decide to take a better path in jail and educate themselves and learn and come out a better person. And I've met a lot of those people. And unfortunately, I've met a lot of those people from Josh Dubin that were wrongly incarcerated and then came out these amazing, incredibly intelligent, really well-read, interesting people because they dedicated themselves to doing that while they were in jail. Because they realized, like, I did not commit this crime. I'm forced into this situation. What can I do to make better of my life while I'm here? Well, I'm going to educate myself, and I'm going to come out a better person.
That's great. By the way, I wouldn't mind a pre-pardon. I mean, just you do whatever you want. You're speeding, whatever. And I got a pre-pardon, dude.
There's a lot of people that got pre-pardons. They were like, how did Adam Schiff get a pre-pardon? Why is Liz Cheney get a pre-pardon? Like, what did you do? What did you do that you need a pardon?
Also, that's never happened before. There's never been a pre-pardon. I mean, how can you pardon someone if they haven't been convicted of something?
Well, there's a lot of debate on the constitutionality of it, too, like whether or not that's even what the pardons were intended for. And that was the thing during the 2020 like when Trump was leaving the office. You know, there was talk about what if he pre-pardons his family? That would be outrageous, and all the Democrats were against it. And then, of course, when Biden did it, everybody just shut up. Yeah. He pre-pardoned his son from 2014 or something, 11? Oh, what a good guy.
Yeah. That was necessary.
Yeah.
That was a pre-pardon?
He was never charged.
Seemed like a post-pardon at that point.
He was about to be charged, and he was never.
What was Gerald Ford going to be charged? Or
no, Nixon.
So Nixon.
Watergate scandal.
Watergate. Yeah. That's another one. The Watergate one's a weird one, too. Because the lead guy was an intelligence agent who was all of a sudden a reporter.
Here's the pre-pardon list. George W. Bush gave some to the Iran-Contra affair people.
Oh, what a good guy. Casper Weinberger. There you go.
Abraham Lincoln, which is the Civil War.
Abraham Lincoln did. During the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln preempted pardons, part of the broader strategy to maintain national unity. Oh, okay. Extended to Confederate sympathizers and soldiers. Okay. As an incentive to lay down arms and support the Union.
Jimmy Carter for the Vietnam draft?
Yes. Well, that was a good one.
So there's a few, but not like the same reasons.
I remember I was a kid. I was living in San Francisco when the Vietnam War ended. My parents were hippies. We were living in like Haight-Ashbury, like the like down near Lombard Street, in the middle of like hippie San Francisco. And I remember thinking, whew, as a little kid, thinking, wow, finally the war's over. I don't have to think about war anymore. I'm like, people are going to learn from this. I really believed that. You know?
You are, because you're a hopeful person.
Also, I was 10.
Yeah.
Or whatever I was.
Most 10-year-olds, I guess, are pretty hopeful. But
yeah, well, you're terrified because I had thought of the idea of being drafted. Like, in 8 years from now, can I be drafted and have to go and fight for some fucking insane war that makes no sense? And if you don't, they put you in a cage. Like, that was the reality of life in the 1960s when they had conscription. Yeah. That's scary shit, man. You know, being forced to give up your life to go fight in some fucking insane war that makes sense. It's probably about heroin. Probably had a lot to do with heroin trade.
Well, yeah, they say that bombing in Laos was a lot of that on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. A lot of that had to do with that avenue for heroin there.
Yeah.
On that Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Well, how about Afghanistan?
Yeah, Afghanistan. Yeah, that can't be a coincidence. Poppy's there and Poppy's there.
Not only that, we were guarding poppy fields. We were, because we needed, these farmers need to grow poppies. Is like, this is how they make a living. We got to help them. We got to fight the Taliban. Then, you know, it's 90+% of the world's opium is coming from this area. Like, what?
90%?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's
didn't realize it was that
94.
much.
I think it was 94% of the world's heroin was coming from Afghanistan while we were occupying Afghanistan.
Really?
Oh,
And now
yeah.
where's it coming from?
Probably Afghanistan still.
No, it's safe. Secure.
I mean, the Taliban were the people that were against it, which is wild. 2021, Afghanistan produced more than 90% of the world's illicit heroin. However, Myanmar has since surpassed Afghanistan. Wow. Didn't Myanmar just have a giant coup? Didn't they have a military takeover of Myanmar? I think they did. I'm pretty sure because, yeah.
Yeah,
Burma.
maybe it's follow the drugs instead of follow the money. But
Yeah.
Same thing, maybe.
Yeah. Myanmar coup. Just write coup. Yeah, 4 years after the coup. Atrocity crimes. Yeah. 4 years after the coup, chaos reigns as Myanmar's military struggles. Yeah, they're probably taking control. I mean, if you've got a place where now they've taken over the heroin production of the world, and all of a sudden you have a military coup, shocking.
Right.
Crazy.
It does tend to follow along
Yeah.
these routes.
Yeah. It's too many things to concentrate on. That's the problem. And we're all getting inundated every day with terrible news from all over the world. And on one side, it makes people more accountable because now you know all the terrible things that are going on all over the world. But another thing, it's like it's unmanageable. If you're one human being living in Austin, your phone is blowing up all day with atrocities that are happening all over the world. You're like, what can I do? What is life? Everything's terrible. Meanwhile, you go to the coffee shop, everybody's nice. You go to the restaurant, say hi to. It's like my world seems pretty fucking normal, but but when you're inundated constantly, so you're in this constant state of anxiety and weirdness and.
I know it's not a good thing, but I think that's why I stay away from the media. I don't read newspapers. I don't, I just try to stay away because it's that toxifying element. It can really, and granted, it keeps me ignorant.
Yeah.
But they do say ignorance is bliss, and I feel pretty blissful. So, I mean.
Well, as long as somebody's paying attention, I guess it's okay.
Well, I mean, about some of these items we've been discussing, I've actually, studied this. So there's things but there's other things that I just can't get hit every day with like 90 things that are so depressing,
Do you go on social media at all?
No. I do have, what's the Zuckerberg? No.
Instagram?
Instagram. But because, they make you like you have to give us all your information and access to your picture. So I can't personally get on the Instagram. But if I have a picture, I have to get someone else to post the picture.
Yeah.
So
that's probably healthier.
Yeah. Huh?
That's probably healthier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Than being on it all the time. Because I know a lot of people that are on it all the time, and it makes them sick. It's like radiation poisoning.
Yeah. I'm pretty much never on it.
That's good.
But I should post more. I post like once every 6 months or something. But no, I don't know. I'd rather have an alt to Instagram.
So how do you
what
find
do you
out about
think of a good alt?
An alt? I don't know. But the problem is, well, X is what I use the most as far as like getting information, but every now and then I'll go on and watch people argue and see like these toxic fights back and forth, and that puts me in a shitty mood. And I'm like, God damn, why do people fucking treat each other like this? Like it's like such a stupid way to communicate.
Yeah. That is, it's so disheartening.
And it's also, it amplifies the worst aspects of our society, which is like shitty division. It's like shitty division is what gets a lot of clicks. Partisan thoughts and attacking people, tribal thinking. That's what gets the most clicks, and that's what you see the most. But there's enough of exposing of actual legitimate corruption and information about what's actually going on in the world that I get out of there that it balances it out for me to the point where I'm willing to engage in it to a certain extent. But I don't do it at night. And I don't do it when I think it's gonna like fuck me up before I go to bed. I don't do it if there's anything I really have to concentrate on because I don't want some new pathway to open up in my mind where now I'm concerned about this.
Right, Yeah. But all of that adversity you faced, do you feel like it actually increased your popularity?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely did.
Oh.
Yeah, like during the COVID stuff, when they were trying to get me removed from Spotify. In that 1 month, I gained 2 million subscribers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the height of the attacks on me, the show got way bigger. Yeah.
Right. So how many people listen to that Robert Malone show, would you say?
That's a good question. Between Spotify, YouTube, and all the clips, fucking who knows, hundreds of millions probably.
Oh, great.
Yeah, a good show that gets spread around, like how many different eyeballs will see it. I mean, it really depends on how profound the person's revelations are, like what they're talking about. Like, like the biggest one we ever did. Well, some of the Elon. Well, I think the biggest one we probably ever did was Bob Lazar. Is that number one? So the Bob Lazar one. Do you know who Bob Lazar is? Bob Lazar is the guy that in 1989 he did an interview with George Knapp in Las Vegas, and he said he was working back engineering UFOs for the government. And he has this crazy fucking story about working at Area S4, Site 4, and Area 51 in the Nevada desert, which at that point in time, the government would deny that Area 51 even existed. And he's like, no, I work out there, and I was working back engineering propulsion systems from crashed UFOs. And he was explaining how these things work and explaining how it's some sort of a gravity propulsion device that works completely different than any propulsion device that we've ever devised, and that they're trying to back engineer them. They don't know how to do it, so they keep bringing in new propulsion experts. So he was a guy that had previously worked at Los Alamos Labs, and then he gets a job, and they're essentially throwing as much shit against the wall as possible, trying to see what sticks. Like, can you figure this out? And they're bringing in new people. And he was brought in apparently allegedly after an accident where they tried to cut into the reactor and it exploded and people died. And so they said, okay, well, that's not going to work. Let's try another method, bring in some other people. And he was one of the people they brought in. And when you have top secret clearance, what happens is they tap all your phones. They listen to you all the time. Well, he had this job where he couldn't tell his wife what he was doing. So he would get this phone call saying that he has to fly out to Area 51 at like 11 p.m. So he would go to the airport, fly out, and his wife was like, this motherfucker's cheating on me. So she starts fucking her flight instructor. She's got some flight instructor.
Oh,
and so
no.
because his wife was having an affair and they knew it from the phone calls, they thought that he was going to be emotionally unstable. So they removed him from the project. So he gets removed from the project and he says, well, I'm telling my friends. So he goes and tells friends, like, this is what I was doing. I was working on these fucking UFOs. They have actual UFO. That's the one. That thing on the desk right there, that's the recreation of what he called the sport model that they worked on that has this flying saucer that's behind the antlers.
That's like the three.
The classic.
It's like the Tesla 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If you were to
Yeah, the
the
classic.
peppy little
The sport model.
Got it.
So he brings people out to watch. He said on Wednesday they have these flights and they test these things. I'll take you guys out to the desert. He took them out to the desert. He takes them a couple of times. Then he gets arrested. So he gets arrested and he says, they're going to fucking kill me. I have to go public. So he goes public and tells the whole story. And so he does these series of interviews with George Knapp, who's an investigative reporter in Las Vegas. And they become legendary. He's told the same story for now going on 40 years. And it's an insane
But he's
story.
still alive.
He's still alive. Yeah, he did my podcast. So he did the podcast, and I don't know what to think. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. It's hard to know, but he's told the same goddamn story for all these years, and he's obviously a brilliant guy. When you talk to him, he's obviously very literate in science, really understands what he's saying. And many of the things that he said from that particular interview have been corroborated by other people, including his knowledge of Los Alamos Labs. They tried to say he never worked there, but they found him on the employee roster, and he knows the building. He took people into the building. He took George Knapp in there. He knew the security guards. He knew where to go, showing everybody around the place. And
Wow.
that's our biggest podcast ever because it's so fucking nuts. There's an incredible Jeremy Corbell did an incredible documentary called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers, and it's all about his experiences there. And it's one of those things where you just you don't know, but it's so weird. It's like if this guy's telling the same goddamn story, and then they have all these videos of these things that the Go Fast video and the FLIR video that the government's released that were covered in the New York Times, and these crafts are exhibiting the same sort of behavior that he was explaining in 1989.
Yeah.
Particularly, and they fly like this, but then when they want to go fast, they rotate sideways and point whatever this gravity propulsion, whatever this thing is, this generator, and they shoot this way, and take off. And there's videos of these things doing this.
Wow.
40 years later.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's the biggest video.
I gotta, yeah.
So that video
I'm gonna
on
listen to that.
YouTube got 60 million views, and then on all the other platforms, who knows how many, and all the clips, it's probably hundreds of millions. Yeah.
Bizarre.
But it's one of those things where you don't want to think too much about it because it might be bullshit. You know? That's how I feel about the whole UFO thing.
But what would be his point? What's his motivation? Like,
It's a good question.
I don't see how it benefits him other than he's got now people calling him a wacko. Which he didn't have before. So
Right.
what's the good of it?
Right. That's a good.
You
Well,
know, you always got to look at possible motivation.
well, there's a lot of people that want to pretend to be special, and so they make up stories so that make them special. They make up encounters. They make up abductions. I've been abducted by aliens. I'm a special person. They took me aboard. I have a message for humanity. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of delusions.
Right. That's a different thing.
Right.
I mean, a guy like that, I don't see his, if that's what he actually did for a living, then I don't see why
Why he would
how
do
he
that.
benefits.
Well, one of the more interesting stories is this guy's. This is Travis Walton. This guy's got a little bobblehead. Travis Walton was a guy, I don't know if you ever saw that movie Fire in the Sky. It was based on a bunch of loggers in Arizona, and they saw this thing land, and this guy, Travis Walton, gets out of the truck and goes to it and gets blasted by this bolt of energy, collapses to the ground. His buddies take off. They're screaming in the car, all these loggers, like, we got to go back and get him. We got to go back and get him. They turn around a mile later, go back, he's gone. He's gone for 5 days. And then he shows up back in the town 5 days later with this fucking wild story of being abducted, taken aboard this craft. They healed his body, and then they communicated with him and then returned him. And the thing about it is, like, all these experiences, these people talk about the exact same creatures. They talk about the exact same entities, these things with big heads and large eyes and spindly bodies, and they're communicating telepathically. It's like it's universal. It's like over and over again. It's a very similar story. And the problem is, if it happened to you, who the fuck is going to believe you? It's a unique experience, a completely novel experience that only you have. And then you have to go and try to make sense of it to other people that haven't experienced it, and they're going to think you're fucking crazy. But if you have enough of these people that say the same story over and over and over again, which is, if you read John Mack, he was a psychologist from Harvard that did a lot of hypnotic regression work with people that have had alien abductions. And this guy was
I read that.
Did you ever? It's a crazy book,
I met
right?
him. I met John.
Did you
Mack.
really?
Yeah.
When did you meet him?
I met him on the campus at Harvard.
Oh, wow.
You know, I went to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a great night, and then went back home. No, I I only visited there a couple times.
Well, I know you play really good chess.
I did play chess. Do you
Magnus
play?
Carlsen told me.
Huh?
I had Magnus Carlsen in a couple days ago.
Oh, really?
He told me that you did one of his opening moves, that you
Yeah.
did it for him. And he was like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, he couldn't even figure out why you did them. But he realized afterwards, like, oh, you're a really good chess player. That was actually a legitimate move. You did his opening, right?
Well, yeah. I did one time. I did an opening for the other guy. What's his name? Anyway. And I'm gonna do this opening, and at the same time, I want to tip over with my pinky, tip over the king, just as a joke, because you tip over the king, the game's over, right? So I did that, but then and there was kind of a chuckle and everything, and picked it up, and then he's
right
looking
here?
quite concerned. Oh yeah, this was it. Look. Yeah, I hit it. I knocked it down, and then I pushed it. Yeah, they slow it down. You can see it. But then I pushed the pawn, right? And then I realized, because I thought he said D4, right? didn't say D4. He said E4. So I'm looking at his face, and he had whispered it to me into my bad ear, and I'm like, well, man, why do you got to whisper? I'm going to make the move anyway.
Well, Magnus said you stuck
then it
around
was
and you played a lot of
embarrassing.
people, and he said you were really good.
Oh, that's very nice.
Coming from
Magnus
him.
Carlsen. Wow.
Yeah.
He's the Mozart, man.
Yeah. Fascinating guy. He was here a
Yeah.
couple days ago.
Was he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do admire him. He's great. And that whole thing, that just happened with the jeans, like that was great. Did you see it?
With
he
him?
went to one of the big I forget which tournament it was, but anyway, came in jeans, and they're very strict, right? And so they wouldn't allow him to play. And then so he basically was going to end up sacrificing the day because he came in jeans, right? He said, I just wasn't thinking about it. Well, so then he's just like, you'll have to come back tomorrow. You're sacrificed for today. He's like, you know what? I won't be back tomorrow. And then boom, they changed the rules.
Oh, wow.
They changed it.
Yeah, that's a stupid rule.
Yeah,
Who gives a shit if you're wearing jeans?
I know. That
should be able to
doesn't
play in a
make you
bikini.
a better or worse player.
Yeah, it's stupid. Everybody should be able to have to play in their underwear. That way, they don't have any devices on them.
Right.
You're not
But
doing
they
anything.
could have it in them, too.
They could,
So
yeah.
maybe you got to do a rectal probing before. This is full circle with the talking about the aliens. But, maybe you have to do something before.
Well, we got into very specific ways that people cheat. It was pretty interesting. He was talking to us about different ways that people have been busted cheating, different people signaling them in the room, moving to different parts of the room if they wanted the piece to move in a different area.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that one guy he said was cheating. He said he knew as soon as the move was made, and then he walked out.
Yeah.
That was another time.
Yeah.
He just like, there's no way this guy made this move. No chance.
Well, that was what was fascinating, that you could tell by the way a guy's playing that something was amiss, that this is not inside of his capability. He knew the way the guy played so well that you could tell that something was off, which is so crazy. Which is, I'm not literate in chess, so I don't understand how you could do that, but I believe him. Especially when you talk to him, like,
Well, he's got a thumper in his sock or something. Somebody's giving him
he thinks
looking
it's an
on a
earpiece.
computer and then dun.
He thinks
telling
it's
him.
an internal ear, like a very small, invisible earpiece that they
Is
put
that
in
what
you.
he thought?
Yeah, that's what he
Oh.
thinks. He thinks that one of the possible methods. And then, then there was the anal beads. People were talking about anal beads.
Anal beads. It's a guy don't want a thumper in his sock. He just wants to go pure inside man.
Yeah, I guess it would like vibrate. I guess you would do it like vibrate a certain amount of times first to indicate the letter, and then a couple times to indicate the number. And that's where the piece would go.
A little Morse code in the rectal cavity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been playing chess?
I started playing more probably like 10 years ago, or maybe more than that. I started playing Willie.
Oh, wow.
Started playing Willie all the time. But then we'd switch over back to dominoes. He crushes me in dominoes, and then I was mostly winning chess. And then toward the end of our battles, he started switching to just, you know what, we'll just stay with the dominoes. Such a hustler.
Such a hustler. Yeah. I tried to interview him, but he's scared of COVID.
Yeah.
He's an old guy, I
Yeah,
get it.
He's 92.
Can't take a chance getting infected. And that a lot of old people, I got it. I got the fear because it's like death is close to them. It's just they're too vulnerable. I get it. I get why they got roped into it.
Well, yeah, the fear of germs.
That was the Neil Young thing too. That's why I gave
still a
Neil Young
very-
a pass. I was like,
a
I
lot of
get it.
people you still see wearing masks.
Oh, all the time, even in Austin.
Yeah.
I see them driving their fucking car still with masks on.
Yeah, alone in the car with the mask.
Yeah,
that
they're
always
just sick.
Confuses me. But fear is a fairly relentless occupation for some, and I don't know. I just I studied the germ theory. You know how it came to be the backbone of Western medicine. Do you know?
The Rockefeller thing?
Well, that came after this, but yeah, Rockefeller pushed that whole narrative, but it was before that in the 1887 or something, 89, where uh, Louis Pasteur stood before the French Academy of Science and said, "I've realized the origin of all disease, and it's the germ theory." And he took credit for the germ theory, which of course had been around for centuries at that point. But there was another guy named Antoine Béchamp who was actually a real genius, whereas Pasteur was a charlatan and used to he basically stole all these good ideas that he never had from Antoine Béchamp, including how fermentation works, how they had diseases in the grapes of at the time, so how to deal with that disease, and also having to do with where they make the silk, like silkworms and stuff. That also was another thing that Béchamp figured out, and then Pasteur, who's on the same committee, ends up reading these papers and basically kind of putting his own spin on it and getting credit for the fermentation, the silkworm, the wine thing. Like each thing, he becomes more and more famous. And until he's able to sit down in front of Napoleon in 1863, Napoleon III, he said, I will eliminate all disease. I will eradicate all human disease. He was an arrogant guy, and he was a complete fraud.
Isn't that a bummer?
And Pasteur believed the germ theory, obviously. That's the theory that he pushed, right? And then Béchamp believed in the terrain theory. Now, that's what I believe. The terrain theory, the germ theory, obviously, a pathogen, a germ, a virus, whatever, lands in your cornflakes or on your eyeball or whatever, it gets inside you.
Right.
And then in this pristine blank slate environment, it causes damage, maybe sickness, and eventually death. To me, I don't believe this theory as much as I do the terrain theory, which is that your health is dependent upon your internal biological terrain and your internal filthiness or cleanliness. And so that's what I believe is where people's immune system gets messed up from what they're consuming. And in a nutshell, that's why I believe in Béchamp's theory as opposed to the germ theory. And at least it's got to be both. At the very least, it's got to be both.
I would imagine it's both. I mean, we know for a fact that one of the main factors in eliminating diseases in North America was when they started having hygiene and when they started having flowing water and sewage systems, and that just having cleanliness. I mean, most cities at the turn of the century were filled with filth. I mean, during the smallpox epidemic, people lived terrible. They lived in filth. When you had the various, like there's a bunch of different diseases that could be attributed to poor hygiene. Poor hygiene, no access to antibiotics, no access to any kind of medicine. And we all attribute that just to a disease broke out. But why did the disease break out? Well, the people were living in filth. There was no running water. They didn't have any sewage systems. They didn't have any sort of antibiotics, and including like people talk about the Spanish flu. Like, if the Spanish flu broke out today, we'd be fucked. No, we wouldn't. First of all, we have antibiotics now. Spanish flu would be killed quickly. It's the real factor was all these diseases that people were getting because of the infection that could be cured by antibiotics. But
I'm
also
not a big antibiotics guy.
At all?
No, I mean, I took them. One time. I credited them with really having saved me. But
they'll save you under certain conditions.
Right. If your immune system's shot and there's nothing else you can do to bolster your immune system, in a short amount of time, where the whatever is happening quickly.
But you're
And I
saying like
think-
ubiquitous use of antibiotics for everything.
Yeah, where it's just like
that's probably not a
it's
good
like a
idea.
Pez dispenser that
Right.
and it does affect your immune system adversely, especially continuous use of antibiotics.
It's also why we have MRSA.
What?
MRSA. MRSA is medication-resistant staph infections.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's
okay.
I've had a bunch of friends who get that because it's one of the side effects. One of the unfortunate aspects of jujitsu is a lot of guys get staph infections. You know, if you're not clean, you're
Because
not taking
of
care.
what?
Getting scratched and scraped up, and you're on the ground, dirty mats. People come in dirty, and you can get an infection. I've had staph twice. You get staph, ringworm, a bunch of different things that people normally get on the mat. But there's ways to combat that in a healthy, organic way. And one of the best ways is the use of. There's a bunch of different oils, tea tree oil and eucalyptus oil, a bunch of oils that don't affect your skin biome in a negative way. But what they do is they protect you from bad diseases. And there's a company called Defense Soap. And I always recommend it. I don't have any affiliation with them. My friend Guy Sacco runs the company, but he developed it because a bunch of wrestlers and grapplers were getting skin infections. And so he developed natural remedies that don't affect your, because a lot of times guys would take like antibiotic soap and they would clean themselves with antibiotic soap. The problem with that is it kills all your healthy flora, all the skin flora that's healthy. That gets torched too. It's taking a blowtorch to, you know, like a small patch of weeds that you could just pluck out.
Right.
And instead of doing that, he developed this soap that uses all these natural organic remedies that, you know, doesn't affect you in a negative way at all. It's the only soap I use. I use that soap every day, and it keeps your skin healthy, and it doesn't fuck it up. So there's ways around it. The real way is to prevent it, though, because once you actually get staph, especially if it's aggressive, you got to take antibiotics or you're fucked.
Well,
It gets systemic.
yeah.
My friend's wife.
Sorry. Go ahead.
My friend, his friend's wife, rather, died of it. She was trying to do it organically. She was trying to like use herbal remedies, and she wound up dying of staph infection because it gets
she
systemic.
did.
Yeah, it gets
Yeah,
into your blood and goes into your whole body, and then you're fucked. I mean, you really have to get on like heavy, hardcore IV antibiotics for long stretches of time. So I've had friends that have huge scars on their body because they got a massive MRSA infection in their knees, and then they had to get it all opened up. They have to clean it out, and they have to get them on IV antibiotics. It's a nightmare, and it's one of the main reasons why people die after surgeries. It happens after surgeries where people get MRSA infections.
Yeah. Well, Jesus. Let's
Superbugs.
Just stay healthy.
Yes, stay healthy, Woody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you eat only vegetables? Is that what you're talking about, like meat? Are you a vegan?
I'm a vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, I really my real belief is in raw living food, because I feel like, you know, we talk a lot about you getting your protein or you getting your carbs or whatever. I think the most important component of the food are the enzymes.
Mm-hmm.
The enzymes being the life force of the food,
Mm-hmm.
and the enzymatic activities, your eyes blinking, your heart beating, those are enzymatic activities. If it wasn't for enzymes, we couldn't do them.
Yeah.
Like enzymes are highly important. Anything you cook over 118 degrees for a minute, you destroy the enzymes and most of the nutritional value of the food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm a believer in raw living food. And I just know from when I've had lots of experiments for when I was doing it and when I was eating a lot of cooked food, and you can really feel the difference. There's no question about it, supporting the energy of the body better than anything. But meanwhile, I agree that it's very hard to avoid eating cooked food because it's delicious.
Yeah.
But to have as much raw as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing, and I try to get a lot of sprouts and microgreens and everything, and then I also eat cooked food.
Do you take algae or anything where you're getting B vitamins? Do you think?
Yeah, I take I do take I take niacin. I take I should take more of a comprehensive B vitamin probably, but I do take reishi and I take ginseng every
okay.
day. Yeah,
So
there-
healthy mushrooms.
yeah, I believe
Lion's
in the
mane,
healthy
yeah.
mushrooms and
I take all that stuff too.
yeah, there's a cool. Yeah, I got to get on the regular medicinal mushrooms. Those are crucial.
Yes.
And especially
Yeah.
brain repair,
Mhm.
which is, I think, something I need.
I think we all do.
You fix those pathways
Yeah.
that have been compromised.
Do you ever fuck around with nootropics? Do you take any nootropics?
Like what?
Nootropics are essentially nutrients that contribute to cognitive function. Building blocks for human neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, theanine, things along those lines.
No, I don't do that, but
No?
I'm open-minded.
Yeah.
I imagine Downey would know all about that stuff.
Yeah, I bet he would. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really, really knowledgeable about that. But you've studied this shit
Mhm.
too, yeah.
Yeah. The thing about it is, like, you could almost take stuff all day long because there's so many different things that could benefit you. You would
Right.
you'd have to have a fucking stack of shit in front of you all day long, which gets tiresome. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I much prefer. I mean, I think the best thing for restoring health, for if you're sick and you want to get better, is fasting. They've
Fasting
been
is
doing
fantastic
it
for
for
you.
thousands of years,
Yeah.
and it just works.
It does.
Because
Yeah.
the congestion in the body is really what disease is. It's congestion. And
It's inflammation.
Generally, but yeah, inflammation. You could call
Yeah.
it that too. But that congestion begins in the colon,
Mm-hmm.
and so you don't clean that out. Issues.
Yeah. Do you concern yourself? Do you eat organic vegetables only?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge because I think what is it, like 90-something% of people tested have glyphosate in their system? I was reading some study on fucking on Girl Scout cookies. Like how many, like, they've done studies on Girl Scout cookies where they break
Girl
them down and
Scout
find out
cookies.
what's in them. Oh, holy shit. They're fucking toxic as fuck. It's so many bad. I'll send it to you, Jamie. 'Cause I sent it to my wife because she's trying to avoid Girl Scout cookies.
You see
Because
the
those little,
smiling face of
those
the
little
Girl
hustlers.
Scout. You can imagine she's gonna give you something bad.
yeah, those little hustlers. They
Yeah.
they catch you at the grocery store. I'll find this for you, Jamie. There was this thing about. Oh, here it is. The different seed oils, all the different things in them.
This video?
Yeah, that's probably one of them. What does it say here? Thin Mints being the worst offenders. 5 flavors of Girl Scout cookies contained. Scroll up, back up. Contained levels of glyphosate and heavy metals above EPA water safety limits. New investigation found 100% of tested Girl Scout cookies contained glyphosate. 100%. Controversial herbicide and Roundup. 88% contained toxic metals like arsenic, lead, and mercury. Key finding: Thin Mints had the highest glyphosate levels at 111.07 ppb, 334 times what experts say is harmful. Peanut butter patties had the highest heavy metal contamination, with lead reaching 42.5 ppb and aluminum at 27,500 ppm. 76% of cookies tested exceeded cadmium safety limits, and 96 contained lead.
That's wild.
Girl
man.
Scout
That
USA,
is
which
wild.
sells 200 million boxes per year, $800 million in revenue, did not respond to researchers before publication. I wonder
Didn't
why.
Respond.
I wonder why. I wonder why they wouldn't chime in. Isn't that crazy?
Whoa. See, there you go. And by the way, that you could replicate this same thing in so much of the American diet.
What does Girl Scout cookies have to say? Girl Scout cookies are made with ingredients that adhere to food safety standards set by the FDA and other relevant authorities. Oh, really? Our trusted bakers remain committed to compliance with all food safety standards. Maybe we should change the fucking food safety standards. Just because you're
Yeah.
complying with bullshit standards.
Well, that's what I'm hoping is going to happen going forward.
I'm hoping too. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know how much Bobby can affect things and what he actually can do, but I know what he's trying to do. And one of the main things he's trying to do is this whole idea of this MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. and that's possible. This is something we could do, and
It'd be so nice, dude. And you know, not a lot of, you know, it could be relatively simple. You
Yeah.
know, just modification. Doesn't have to be a revolution in one's diet, but like, you know, first thing I do is cut out Girl Scout cookies. That's my first.
it's crazy that 100% of them have glyphosate. Like fucking A, man.
Well, the glyphosate is just absolutely crazy, and
Yeah.
you know, like it's just still we know how toxic and terrible it is, and we're still using it
Yeah.
constantly.
and other countries aren't.
in corporate, you know, or industrial farming. You
Yeah.
know, it's just wrong. And I know you're into regenerative farming. I think that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
But you know, you see over the long haul, the regenerative farmer gains. He gains financially, and he gains in terms of the soil not just turning to shit. And
Yes.
well,
Yes.
hold it, you want some shit in
Yeah,
your
you
soil.
want
Now, okay, well, let's
actual
not
shit.
get
Manure.
sidetracked.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, like you know, it's a net gain in the end. So hopefully,
It's carbon neutral.
yeah.
And everyone's trying to reduce carbon. Organic farms are carbon neutral because that's how nature intended animals to live. That's how nature intended us to grow crops. It's all supposed to be animals graze, manure, all this different stuff. It helps.
Yeah, you got to
helps
think
everything.
of the soil biome just as much as you have to think of your own
Yes.
biome.
Yeah, and it all
Yeah.
works together. And thank God there's people out there like Joel Salatin, who runs Polyface Farms, and Will Harris, who runs White Oak Pastures, who've educated these people and gone on written books and gone on these tours and explained to be like Will Harris, who's been on the podcast a couple of times. He spent 20 years changing his family farm, which was a industrial farm, into regenerative agriculture, and you can see the difference in the soil. We have two bottles of soil, two glass bottles of soil out there, one from an industrial farm and one from his farm, and his farm is dark and rich and filled with nutrients, and the other one is just pale and dead and just covered in bullshit fucking chemicals.
And meanwhile, that's the stuff that gets highly subsidized.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a catch-22. If the real value, if the real expense of what happens to that soil were experienced by the American taxpayer, I think there'd be a revolt. Well, you never
Yeah.
know. We're a lazy people. I'm a lazy bastard.
Well, the real problem is we have so many people that need food, and that we're reliant upon factory farming right now to a large extent, because there's enormous populations of people that that live in a place where they grow nothing. Whether it's New York City or it's Los Angeles, these urban environments, they need food constantly shipped into them, and no one's growing anything, and the population keeps booming, and it's like you got to get these people food. And we right now are dependent upon factory farming for a lot of that food.
Well, I wonder if you could, through regenerative farming, cover it.
I wonder.
Could that ultimately be?
Yeah, I wonder. I think people are
the
definitely
new-
going to have to change the way they eat.
It has to change. Well, we at least have to change the way we farm, because otherwise we're going to have just more desertification.
But at least people are aware of it now. At least there's more information and more education about that today than has ever been before. I mean, this was never a discussion when I was a kid. I never heard anything about that. It was just being done, and this is just you got food, and you didn't think about where it came from. And then the term organic came around. Like, what's that? Like, it's no pesticides. Like, what's a pesticide? What's on the food? You know, like, we didn't know. And back then there was no access to any information other than mainstream media, so it was pretty easy for them to keep going on with these practices unless you went out and sought it out and went and found books, or someone told you about a book. You didn't know. You didn't get that information. I think more people have that information now than ever before. So that's one of the reasons why I'm hopeful. And I think Bobby really does have an idea of how to do this. And I hope he's successful.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. Well, listen, brother, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciated it. I'm very happy to meet you. I've enjoyed your work for so many years, so it's a pleasure to do this. And
pleasure's all mine, dude. I really am. It's a privilege to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
My
on.
pleasure. Let's break bread someday. Have
I'd
a
love
good time.
to.
hang out.
Great.
Okay.
I'll get your info and
We're
I'll
friends.
give you my email.
All right. Sounds good, brother.
All right.
All right. Thank you
Cool,
very much.
cool.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
and knows the competitor that he is set to face here, Matt Riddle. I mean, the backstory for this young man is incredible.
It is incredible, and add to that, Rich, the fact that he is undefeated here in Major League Wrestling. So I don't know who is the favorite in this match. I'm not sure. I know Shane Strickland has been great, and I know Shane Strickland has been phenomenal, but the King of the Bros has been red hot.
Matt Riddle, former UFC fighter, left there on a 4-fight winning streak. And as you said, is undefeated here in Major League Wrestling. Does that undefeated streak continue tonight?
You know, Rich, we got to mention the fact that when this tournament started, we had some of the greatest competitors in all of MLW go at it. It's been a great tournament. It's been a great physical tournament. And I think this is really indicative of the type of athletes we have here at MLW to see Matt Riddle, who has a great MMA background, and Shane Strickland go at it here for this World Championship.
Pretty cool shot there of the fans here in Orlando, taking their own video of Swerve making his way down to the ring. Everybody excited about this World Championship matchup, Tony. This is an opportunity for Swerve to hold a world title. That's not to diminish anything he accomplished last year. It has been a constant upward trajectory for Shane Strickland, but tonight would be the ultimate crowning achievement if he can walk out of here carrying that brand new Major League Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship belt.
You know, a lot of things that go into the makeup of Shane Strickland. I think about heart, determination. I know they're much the same, but also confidence, being focused, and that's all part of being Shane Swerve Strickland.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following bout is scheduled for one fall and is for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship. Your referee in charge, MLW Senior Official Frank Gastineau. And now the combatants. Introducing first, to my left, from Allentown, Pennsylvania, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, weighing in this evening at 215 pounds, he is the King of Bros, Matt Riddle!
Looks in phenomenal shape, doesn't he? Phenomenal shape.
And his opponent, to my right, he comes to us tonight from Tacoma, Washington, weighing in this evening at 191 pounds. Shane Swerve Strickland!
Couple of things here before the match starts. You got to give Riddle a lot of credit. He's only been in MLW, made his debut in December. So here he is fighting for the World Heavyweight title a mere, 5 months later, less than 5 months later?
Undefeated record.
And on the other side, Shane Strickland, for all his heart, all his determination, all his confidence, always has a good game plan when it comes to these big matches. So it'd be interesting to see what game plan he's got against a guy who's been a classic MMA fighter. This is what Fusion is all about, and we're getting ready to crown a world champion. you see Frank Gastineau with the belt.
Held up high for all to see. That's what's at stake. The MLW World Heavyweight Championship. Shane Strickland, Matt Riddle. The finals of this tournament. How will Strickland... Very creative song, huh?
Well, it's not bothering Shane at all.
Another split crowd.
Yep, I agree.
Tony, I don't know about you, but the way that Strickland has progressed in the past year,
Riddle wanted a little handshake here, and he's going to get it.
There you go.
And I'm glad to see that. Now let's see how long it takes for tempers to flare here. Here you go, using his MMA techniques, keep him off the mat, or keep him on the mat.
Tony, I was about to say everything that Strickland has worked into his repertoire in the past year or so, the close combat fighting. How will that factor into this matchup? It's almost like everything has led to this moment. All the military techniques, the military combative techniques that he has learned and tried to master. Will that be enough to take down a former MMA fighter? I mean, that's the question in this match.
Well, you know, Rich, when you're in the military, there's more than just combative techniques. You learn conditioning. You learn to take punishment. You learn to keep going forward, to never quit. And Swerve has taken all this that he has learned and parlayed it into a very good Major League Wrestling career so far.
Well, Riddle just tried to take advantage of Strickland with some jiu-jitsu maneuvers, and Strickland, I mean, quickly turned it right around on him. I mean, that is, I don't want to say textbook stuff, but I mean, you can tell that Strickland really did his homework.
Went to a rear naked choke to an armbar, and now has Shane down, and Swerve now just kicks right out of it and goes over the top. One thing that I think Riddle has an advantage on here is he has a much longer reach with his arms. And he's hooked the arms right there. Swerve tried to get a submission hold, and now into an armbar submission here.
Reminiscent of John Jones in the UFC, very elusive to him.
Swerve over the top. Almost an STF that time. And again, just the long reach here and the leg strength of Riddle getting out of it. I mentioned that Riddle was in such great shape as this match began.
With a modified rear naked choke by Strickland, Riddle able to get out of it.
Yeah, into a standing switch. I don't know if this is a submission hold or trying to get him over for a German suplex, but Swerve did the right thing. Just hang on to the ropes.
You talk about conditioning and how important that's going to be for Strickland in this matchup. Being able to outlast the different mixed martial arts maneuvers that Riddle's going to pull out of his back pocket. It takes so much out of you, takes so much wind out of you trying to fight out of some of those submission maneuvers.
You know, we talk so much about the winning streak, the undefeated streak that Matt Riddle has, but think about the big wins that Swerve has had in MLW as well. Brody King, Ricochet. I mean, those are ones that not only do you take the win home, but you take the experience home, and you learn something about yourself as much as you do your opponent when you go in those big-time matches.
Strickland told us that victory over Ricochet was the defining moment of his career up until that point. Clearly a win tonight over Matt Riddle. Not only would it be a career-defining moment, but a career-changing moment for Shane Strickland. Same thing for Matt Riddle as well if he comes out on top.
Yeah, Matt Riddle always has that smile on his face. That smile's kind of been wiped off now in this back and forth that we have seen with chops and blows. Oh, good quickness applied by Riddle. Tried to German suplex, and Swerve landed on his feet. This this is where Swerve will excel. Look at this. He's just swiped away the dropkick. One step ahead that time was Riddle. Gut wrench pickup over the top. Floats right on behind. Boy, Riddle's showing us something here now.
Rolling Corellan lifts. Usually pulls out 3 of these in a row. Release that time. We'll see if he goes for one more, but that's a staple of Matt Riddle, and so's this. Running senton, wow.
The senton splash found its mark. Here's a cover. He hooked a near leg that time, which is unconventional, but he did, and Swerve was able to roll out of it. Now let's see what he can come up with now, because he's got Swerve backpedaling here. Those are legal forearm shots, and that one really found its mark. Here we go again. Oh my.
This is where Riddle really has to take advantage. He has Strickland literally in the ropes.
3 of them now. Strickland trying to pull himself up. Oh, and another one. He may be out on his feet here. Over the top for a release suplex.
Exploder from the corner. I don't know why Riddle's wasting time here. He should be going for the cover right now. Get right into that cover.
Well, you know what that is? That just shows you the inexperience really coming through in a wrestling ring. But a lot of times, inexperience can be trumped by just raw ability. He went to the back, senton splash again.
And Swerve trying to get the armbar locked in.
Swerve almost got himself pinned out of it. Oh, look at the strength of Riddle. Raw power. Raw power. Strickland hitting hard on the top turnbuckle. Just trying to pull himself up. Riddle again going in. Strickland shoves him down. Oh!
Went for the
Riddle.
roll and countered. Countered beautifully by Riddle.
Real naked choke again. And Swerve got out of it, but there you see an elbow right to the point of the attack again. Look at Swerve just trying to get out of that. As they roll over, a good shot for Frank Gastineau to look in.
See Strickland putting the fist up to protect his head from the elbow attack by Riddle.
1, 2, and a German suplex again. You know what? I talked earlier about always a game plan that Swerve has. I think you got to say the best game plan so far has been Matt Riddle's. Because Swerve has been on the defense here for most of this matchup.
Riddle had a golden opportunity to go for a cover and get an early pinfall attempt, and he chose not to do it. He's kept up the attack. Will it pay off, though? Will Riddle look back at the opportunity to pin Shane Strickland early in the match?
Yeah, now he's letting his temper carry him away.
Right.
Which is ill-advised when you're wrestling for the world title in the championship match of this tournament.
Tony, when you have an opportunity to put a guy away in a world title matchup, you take it. Simple as that.
Had him up.
Went for the bro to sleeve, countered by Swerve.
Just a simple leg trip that time. Oh! And now Swerve kicking the arm. And this may be the beginning of some strategy that Swerve has planned here.
Strickland has been known to go after the left arm. His signature maneuver, he calls it the key to Swerve City. Some of those in-close combatives that we talked about.
Wow.
Strickland has really mastered some of these submission maneuvers.
The arm, the hand, the wrist is not supposed to bend that way.
No, it is not. Matt Riddle's left arm is now limp after being twisted by Strickland.
He's fighting back, though, one arm. All right, here's the game plan we talked about right before the match started from Swerve. And it finally comes to fruition here. Back to the point of attack again on the arm. Picking him up by the arm. Wow. That can pull it. That can just dislocate his shoulder. Now it looks like that he's pulling back on the right arm, which obviously is, but notice how the left arm is wrenched around behind him as well.
Fantastic game plan by Swerve with multiple joint manipulations. Stretching out the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist.
It reminds us of the fact we've talked about the MMA background of Matt Riddle, but let's not forget that Swerve is trained with Seth Petrozelli, so he has that background really as well. He knows how to work on one part of the body to get you to submit.
Of course, he trained with Petrozelli for that matchup against Ricochet, who he forced to tap out, Tony. So it's a strategy that has been sound and successful for Swerve.
Swerve just pulling on the arm again, and Riddle just trying his best, using improvising to try to get out of it. But notice how he's still holding on to the left hand. Now he breaks loose, but the kick was in the shoulder area. Not the chest, in the shoulder. Swerve. That kick staggered. And there's a German release suplex. Oh, he popped back up. My goodness. It almost like it woke him up. Whoa. He ran the Swerve stomp on the back.
Huge lariat followed up by the Swerve stomp, and now Strickland, no! Riddle! My God, Fisherman Buster!
The winner of this is the next MLW World Champion. Think of the world champions throughout history. And one of these two, what's their name next to them?
And indeed, this is awesome. For those here in Orlando and those of you watching on beIN Sports, what a battle with the MLW World Heavyweight Championship up for grabs.
Shane Strickland up gingerly. It was Riddle, the first man to his feet, and now laying in the kicks. And I'm surprised here he hasn't followed up with something. He almost as if he wants Shane Strickland to get back up to a vertical base with him. Daring him to get back up. Oh, he got up all right. Oh, that found its mark.
This has turned it into a kickboxing match, Tony.
Yes, it has. We've seen a little bit of everything, haven't we?
We have. Now, Tony, what an amazing matchup here. I mean, both of these guys have thrown everything that they can think of at each other. I mean, what's left?
It's almost if Riddle wants Strickland to hit him again. He caught him. Oh! A Pele kick. How about that?
Matt Riddle. Shane Strickland, a classic here tonight in Orlando with the title on the line.
Another German suplex. But can he make a cover?
Wow. Can either of these two get to their feet? Last thing anyone wants to see is a double count out here, Tony. Then what? Both of these two are going to struggle. They will scratch. They will claw. One of them at least will get to their feet.
Damage to Strickland's neck on that blow could set up the bro to sleep. And let's see if that is exactly what he goes for.
Remember, Riddle still stinging. His left arm was attacked earlier by Strickland. He's been able to fight through the pain, but notice how he's been delivering kicks, Tony.
Front kicks. And Strickland is out on his feet. He's out on his feet. He cannot get up.
We could see a knockout. This could be a knockout. Riddle
Well,
may walk out of here.
look at him pulling himself up again. He will just not stay down. Over the top, into the apron. Let go! Oh, that was on target.
I was just about to say that Riddle could walk out of here as the champion via knockout, but Strickland digging deep, finding the reserve. And now it is Matt Riddle who is dizzy. Strickland. What's he gonna mind now?
Oh, the tree of woe. Never thought I'd see that again.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
You know, they're letting their tempers carry them away now.
Wait a
little bit.
minute, Strickland.
What's he doing?
Oh my God! Swerve stop to the outside.
That could have broken his neck. That could have broken his neck, and he's going up top now. Swerve is up top. Riddle is prone. The swerve stop from the top. The cover. 1, 2. No! Oh!
That's how much it means to Matt Riddle. That's how much this means to Matt Riddle. 2 swerve stops, 1 to the outside, 1 on the inside. Strickland can't believe it. Riddle will not quit.
Great camera shot of that reaction from Swerve. He couldn't believe it. You're right, after the swerve stomp. Both men have just literally dug down deep from who knows where to keep this match going on.
This world title fight.
Oh, look at the fans standing. Swerve working on his wrists. Look at Riddle trying to pull himself up, and Swerve just stomps on the hand, the left hand. He took off his left wrist brace or wrist guard or whatever, and now he is just again working on the arm. Oh, Matt Riddle comes away with a counter kick. Oh, and another one! You can hear it all over the gilt. Picks him up. He powerbombed him. Oh, that's got to be it. 1, 2. No!
How did Strickland kick out?
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. There's the senton splash. What else? Can Riddle hit him with? He's calling out to his bro nation. He's going up top. This is Riddle up top for the first time. Here he goes. Big senton bomb.
That's gonna do it, Tony. That's gonna be all.
Cover. Foreleg. 2. And Strickland again. Strickland again is out. You hear the chant of MLW. One of these 2 men will be the MLW World Heavyweight Champion. You got to think at this time in the match, what else can Riddle do to keep Swerve down? And conversely, what can Swerve do to keep Riddle down? Neither man has been given an inch. Instinctively popping back up, rolling. Look at Swerve again.
Tony, it's an old cliche, but who wants it more right now? Who has enough left in the tank that they are willing to go through hell and back to walk out of this building tonight as the brand new Major League Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion? Will it be Swerve? Will it be Riddle? This is a huge title fight.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not so sure how much Swerve had behind his open hand slaps that exchange, but I know what Riddle had behind his. Picks him up. Oh, pile driver. 1, 2. No!
Strickland kicked out of a jumping tombstone.
Swerve will not stay down. It's not in his makeup. It's not in his vocabulary. Look at his face. It appears he's out. On his feet. Straight
Oh
down.
my God, he reversed it, Tony.
Armbar submission. kicking him on side of the head, pulling onto the left arm, trying to hyperextend it as Riddle tries to get to the ropes. Swerve pulling back the center of the ring. Look how close he is. He's got him back again.
This is the next generation.
Oh, my.
Pro wrestling. Shane Strickland. No, wait a minute.
He broke his arm. He had to break his arm. He had to break his arm. Look at the arm. Whatever it takes, right? To become world champion.
That is stomach churning. That sickening snap of the arm, and now Strickland going right back to the
Yes,
injured
sir.
arm.
That's what you got to do. That's right. That's sound strategy. What? Riddle almost turned it against Strickland. I can't believe what I'm seeing. He's got him up. Oh! A drop kick out of that.
What a counter by Swerve.
He's got him hooked. Oh!
JML driver.
2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is your winner, and new MLW World Heavyweight Champion, Shane Super Strickland.
My God, if you're not in love with MLW after that battle, then you don't have a pulse. What a confrontation. What a matchup. What heart, what determination by both men. Swerve can barely stand with that gigantic gold belt, but he is the world champion. Oh, what a moment. And he earned every bit of it, didn't he?
The emotion welling out of Shane Strickland. He's almost hyperventilating. Can't believe that this moment has come true. Matt Riddle, meanwhile, may have a broken arm, but is over to congratulate Swerve.
Reaches out the right hand, the left arm that took all that punishment. And I love to see that. And there is your MLW World Heavyweight Champion. As the celebration goes on here on BN Sports, we have seen, and it's an overused term, Rich, but it belongs in this one. We have seen a classic, a real Matt classic, and Shane Strickland etches his name beside guys like Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr.
Tony, a new era is upon us. It is the era of Swerve. Shane Strickland, your MLW World Heavyweight Champion.
Thank you very much for being with us. MLW Fusion.